Welcome back to the Go to Go podcast, man. Episode 90, NBA playoff series heating up, conference semifinals going on. Talk about these matchups still going on. No one yet to close or sweep conference semifinals so far. Game 5 tonight between the Pacers and Knicks. That's the first game on. 8 o'clock, Game 5, T-Wolves, Nugs. Tipping off around 10:30 as well. So we're going to jump into those games, talk about the two other matchups going on tomorrow as well. Cavs Celtics tomorrow at 7, Mavs Thunder tomorrow at 9:30. This Knicks Pacers series took a little bit of a turn. The Knicks banged up, injured. You already know Josh Hart's playing 48 minutes. These guys having to step it up, play big minutes. Limited players. I mean, Precious Achiuwa's getting 20 minutes right now. Not what they expected with their big men so far. And Tyrese Halliburton stepped it up, certainly. The go-ahead 3 by Nembhard the other night in Game 3, I believe, really set it off for the Pacers. They're able to grab 2. Your thoughts on this series?
Yeah, well, look to be, a fun and exciting series. Just unfortunately, the Knicks just have really no one else to go to, and they're pretty much depleted in terms of, players they can look to, guys that they're really counting on to contribute. It's like right now is the Villanova Big Three and literally no one else, whereas, you come into the season, you started with Randall, he's out, Mitchell Robinson, he's out, Hartenstein, he was banged up earlier, he's starting to come back a little more healthy, but, you can't run him all 48 minutes. So depth has been a really big issue right now for the Knicks. And this Pacers team is probably, in terms of having depth and players be fresh, you don't want to play this team. They're super fast. They're going to get out. They're going to push the pace, and they're going to score. And I think in games 3 and 4, you kind of see them try to, put their foot on the gas more, try to make those guys run, try to put a bunch of miles and wear down those guys like DiVincenzo, Jalen Brunson, and Josh Hart, to whereas, it's just at this point it's unfeasible. Like, you can't have this many minutes on you and play this much basketball and still expect to, go on and be a legit competitive team. Now, like you mentioned, Game 5 back in the Garden, the Knicks do have home court advantage, so I think that's playing in their favor. I think that this game or this series could definitely go 6, possibly 7. It'll be a tough finish for the Knicks, but right now, it doesn't look too good in terms of who else can they lean on, because if one of those 3 main guys get an injury or they miss a game, then it's not looking good for the Knicks. So it's unfortunate. Knicks, bunch of cap space. They got the picks. We'll see what they do. They got pieces to move around. We'll see what names become available to hopefully put them over the top and become one of those true finals contenders. But right now, it's going to be tough for them to get past the Pacers with all these injuries and not a lot of depth.
Yeah, 24 minutes from Josh Hart, only because the Knicks were getting blown out in Game 4, so that was the most rest. First time he touched the bench, I believe, at least in this series, at all. And then the Pacers, on the other hand, it's really coming down to depth. Not only their starting 5, Halliburton stepping up, Siakam doing his job as well, playing a decent role. I mean, guys like Obi Toppin, big energy minutes, TJ McConnell getting buckets. He dropped 15 and 10. In Game 4, when you got guys, not only 1 through 5, but you got 6, 7 stepping up off the bench. That's huge, especially for the Pacers, playing at their pace, getting out on the break. Obi Toppin excels, and you saw him have a couple electric dunks really take off for the Pacers in Game 4. And you're the Knicks, hopefully you could get OG back, at least add that wing, add that kind of fourth option offensively, because they look depleted. If it's not Brunson going for 40, they really don't stand a chance. And Brunson just dropped 18. Miles McBride, solid game, but they're gonna need some more from those guys if they want to win. And their superstar Jalen Brunson is literally all on his shoulders. I see how you say it could only go 6, just being that the Knicks are so depleted when they look so up after the first 2 games, closing out tough games, but the Pacers able to respond with that huge Game 3 win, and Game 4 was sort of a steamroll for them. So we'll see if the Pacers can keep it going in the Garden, which has been so electric these playoffs. Home court advantage definitely huge for the Knicks. Game 5 between the T-Wolves and Nugs. I mean, look, the Timberwolves took the first two. Didn't look like an issue against the Nuggets, and MVP Jokic responds with the Nuggets. Aaron Gordon, game 4. I don't think he missed a shot until 3 minutes left in the game. He was like 10 for 10, something like that. Ant took the credit for loss in game 3. He responds in game 4 with a 40-point game. Still ended up with the L. Your take on this one?
Yeah, so far this series, I think for both of these teams, it's been a tale of two teams. When you look at the Nuggets, the first two games, we talked about, can these guys step up? MPJ, he's inconsistent, but the main part here, I think, is Jamal Murray. We saw a different Jamal Murray in games 1 and 2 than from what we saw in games 3 and 4. In games 3 and 4, Jamal Murray, elite shot making. He gets to that little mid-range pull-up. It was pretty much automatic. Had, I think, 18 points in game 3 at the half. Came out super aggressive. He was scoring, and then game 4 continued to have the hot hand, and we saw an aggressive Nikola Jokic. I think he had almost 30 shot attempts or something like that. And for Nikola Jokic to see him go out, someone who's known for playmaking, facilitating, not really, the high volume shot guy. He's going out, he's being aggressive. It's the recipe for success that leads, for guys like Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., all these guys, Holiday, KCP, they're getting all these open looks because these guys are being so aggressive. And the Timberwolves, especially in game 4, they were playing good defense, man. Like, they were playing their same thing. They were doing what they needed to do. It's just comes down to better offense, beats better defense. And the Nuggets definitely got some shots to fall compared to what happened in the first two games. And for the Timberwolves, I mean, Anthony Edwards in game 4, like, what else could you want for him? And I think here the key for the Timberwolves is we saw Cat take a step back, in those 2 games in Minnesota, not really looking like himself. I believe I heard a stat somewhere. I forgot where. But I guess he's like been the best 3-point shooter throughout the playoffs, and he's still shooting the ball really well this series. It's just, especially in game 4, I mean, I think he had, 14 points on 17 shot attempts or something outrageous like that. Still does like just stupid fouls, like trying to take charges at half court. Just, small little mental lapse things. And then Rudy Gobert, he's great defensively, defensive player of the year, but I mean, these guys just didn't really finish around the rim that well in game 4. So offensive inconsistencies for the Timberwolves for pretty much everyone outside of Anthony Edwards. Not really much offense there for the Timberwolves. And when you're playing super, really good defense, and those stops are leading to the easy fast break points, the easy threes for guys, like Naz Reid, Alexander Walker, they're getting open shots off of the really good defense. Well, when the Nuggets are coming down and hitting those shots and you're not getting those stops and easy fast break points, it's harder for the Timberwolves to set up into that offense just because they really have no one else besides Anthony Edwards. So, I mean, this has been like one of the, we talked about it being the best series. Like, so far in both of these 2 games, we've seen both teams just throw haymakers. In the first 2 games from the Wolves, and then the Nuggets came back and just countered with 2 really, really big punches as well. So it'll be an interesting game 5. Really interested to see how it goes. Do, the Timberwolves come back and basically get another road win, or can the Nuggets continue to roll? Seems like they flipped the switch, kind of zombie slept walk through the Lakers in the first couple games, but now it seems like, that championship light is back on and the Nuggets are looking like they did down the stretch last season. So it's going to be interesting. I'm not going to say this is the pivotal game, but in terms of, it's basically 0-0 now. It's tied up. Both teams have 2 wins. So you want to see who's going to, be mentally tough enough to come out, face that adversity, because both teams have gone through a lot this entire series. So I think the Nuggets, they showed enough, and you got to go based off that championship mentality, that championship DNA. They've shown they have what it takes, and I think it might just be a little too much for the Timberwolves at this moment, especially if Jamal Murray a little healthier, more confident. He's playing a lot better. I think he's the key in all of this.
Yeah, I agree. The Timberwolves side of things, it falls on Karl Anthony Towns. He played a horrible game 4. It was offensively looked lost, dribbling the ball, just losing it, kind of sloppy all around offensively game from Cat. I mean, it was kind of bad to watch. Fourth quarter, Ant gets locked up, gives it to Cat for a play. I think they're down like 8 with 5 minutes left, and Cat just turns the ball over, dribbling wildly. Nikhil Alexander Walker, he couldn't get it going. I believe he He only hit 1 field goal. He dropped 2 points. He was a big guy in those first 2 games. Jaden McDaniel, okay, he's going to give you effort defensively. He dropped 11, but you look at the 2 big men, Gobert, it looked like they were having a field day in the paint in the Denver Nuggets and getting buckets with ease, moving him off his spot. And he had trouble on that help side defense, trying to collapse. He just wasn't able to get there in time. Outside, and Mike Conley playing decent, veteran leadership, hitting some shots for him. But, Mike Conley up there in age, you can't rely on him. You got your 2 superstars in Ant and Cat. You're going to need Cat to show up if you're the Timberwolves. And for the Nuggets, Jokic just said, people were talking a little bit down after I lost those 2 games. Let me go ahead and turn it up. I'm an MVP for a reason. And he showed a 35, 7, and 7. It was just easy work. And, he wasn't getting denied. I know he put up like the 30 shots, but it's just what the Nuggets needed. Murray, he's got it going. And Aaron Gordon, when you're just getting buckets with ease, and it's not like they were all layups or dunks. I was watching Aaron Gordon post up, step back, out of the post, spin. Like, he was getting buckets in different types of ways I didn't see Aaron Gordon getting buckets before. So if that's the case, the T-Wolves running into some trouble, they're going to have to strap up when it comes to Aaron Gordon, because he did the same thing last year in this playoff run where he just went off, just being a spark plug for this team. And if you get Gordon, Jokic, and Murray, or you get Gordon, Jokic, Porter Jr., KCP, one of those role players, if they step it up, it's going to be hard for the Timberwolves, even with Ant giving you an easy 44. He had no trouble scoring whatsoever in Game 4. Game 5, man, Cavs Celtics. Cavs, they put up a good fight. They got a punch on the road against the Celtics. They dropped 2 at home. Donovan Mitchell out. Darius Garland had a big Game 4, 27 points, I believe. But before we even talk about this, I think the Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell experiment's over, and I think they really got to decide on one, because you saw what DG can do when Donovan's not out there. When Mitchell's out there, not the same player. Donovan Mitchell, obviously, primary ball handler. He takes, the leadership of the offense, and you see DG not really be himself that he once was, pre-Donovan Mitchell, or even last game without Donovan Mitchell. He was having a field day. But when you're running Tristan Thompson out there on the court as your big man in the Cavs, it's a tough thing to do against the Celtics team. I think they're too talented. Said this series was going to go 5 gentlemen sweep, and I think Game 5 they close out tomorrow in the Garden. I think it's going to be easy work for the Celtics.
Yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you. And then another take for the Cavs is you got to look at the big man position too with Mobley and Jared Allen. Mobley had a really good game this series when Allen, I believe, missed the first couple games. He wasn't playing. So in this modern NBA, you can't have 2, big guys, especially if you want to move Mobley to the 5. Neither one of them can really shoot the ball efficiently or good enough to be a floor spacer. So it's kind of repetitive there, along the same lines you mentioned with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, who just missed last game. So, yeah, I think the Cavs have some interesting moves to make this offseason. But I'm with you, man. I think this was basically just a series the Celtics could let Porzingis get some rest, be ready for, ultimately Eastern Conference Finals, but maybe even rest him a little then, because, if you look at it, if the Knicks somehow win, you have Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, all these guys who have, the most miles on them out of anyone left in the playoffs, and they'll probably be, running out of gas. And then the Pacers, who are a super young team, and it could get interesting with that matchup, especially how fast they want to play and how well they can shoot the 3-ball. But the Celtics just have too many options. I think they're too good defensively. So, like we've said pretty much before the playoffs even started, it's looking like a Celtics cruise to the finals at this point. Yeah, so not much else there for that one.
Yeah, Mavs Thunder going to close out the final matchup of the Western Conference and the NBA as far as we're talking about it. This game, full swing series as well. Tale of two sides, games where Luka and Kyrie both show up, or games Luka and Kyrie don't show up. And last night, it was definitely a game where Luka and Kyrie did not show up. Luka was asked in the presser last night where, what's hurting. He said everything at this point. So Luka's definitely feeling the mileage fatigue, man. Your comments on this one?
Yeah, it looked like a little bit after game 3, it could get out of the hand and the Mavericks could run away with it. But, I mean, that game 4 for the Thunder, man, after being down pretty much the entire game, but still being within a puncher's chance, being right there, and the way they pretty much closed out that game, a competitive third quarter, and then in the fourth quarter, you just saw SGA pretty much just win this game for the Thunder. I mean, watching it, guys are getting rebounds and they're swinging the ball around, and the ball just ended right back into SGA's hands. Like, no one else wanted to shoot the ball, but they were kind of just giving it to SGA, like, go make something happen. 9 times out of 10, he definitely did. I mean, him in that mid-range, it's like warm-ups, bro, like layup lines for him. He was just getting to his spots at ease. He likes the little elbows, the baseline, even hit one like behind the backboard, getting to the free throw line. So I think for the Thunder, we talked about this is a super young team. This is where they build that, playoff atmosphere, that championship DNA. I think this game, when you look at some of these really, really, the superstars, the competitive teams, where you look at, the Bucks, although they didn't have the success this year, where you look at when they went on that championship run and, Giannis had the big game and closed it out in the finals. You look at the Nuggets last year going on their finals run. Celtics, Jason Tatum had the big game against the Bucks in the playoffs when they were on their championship run. Even Luka Doncic and the Mavs, they haven't really had any finals appearance or playoff success, but we look at Luka as a great playoff performer. I think if FGA and the Thunder, if they can continue to, if they win this series and are competitive in the finals and have some success the next couple years, I think we all look back at, this round 2 game 4 matchup is kind of where they arrived and where that DNA really started from, because they could have, just folded on the road against Luka, who we just mentioned, a great playoff performer. Kyrie, he's hit a bunch of big shots in the biggest stages. So, I mean, to show that grit, to show, that, yeah, we're young, but we're still here. We're still fighting. We're still going to compete. SGA putting the team on his back. Shed hitting 2 big free throws down the stretch, a little ice in the veins. Casey Wallace hit 2 big threes down the stretch as well and playing great defense. I think these young guys are showing a lot of competitiveness, and looking back at it, if this Thunder team does go on a couple runs and if they do happen to win the finals, and, I think we look back at this game and say, yeah, this game in the fourth quarter, SGA takes over. Couple guys hit a big shots, they get big stops. This is kind of where everything sprouted from. So as a Thunder's fan, or if someone that keeps up with them, just a fan of the team, this could be a big moment for the organization, and kind of similar to when they went on that run where they went to the finals and beat the Heat. They pretty much just crushed everybody.
Lost to the Heat.
Yeah.
But.
Oh yeah, they lost to the Heat. But they beat they beat the Spurs, they beat the Lakers. I think they beat the Mavericks as well in that finals run, whereas they pretty much just ran through the West. So maybe they might not make it this far this year, but if we see them go on a dominant run next year, it could be a similar outcome for this Thunder team.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of similarly, young squad, KD, Westbrook, Harden. They had Thabo Cephalosha. What was it? Perk was their big man, or was that?
Yeah. Eric Fisher.
Yeah, exactly. Some vets on the back. They really don't have those vets. It's all young guys at this point. And SGA, I mean, just a hooper. Before I get to that, PJ Washington, forgot to mention he's balling, bro, for the Mavs. Like, I mean, outside, he's probably been the most consistent player for the Mavericks, other than big games from Kyrie and Luka. Definitely the most consistent player. I think he dropped 21 points and 12 boards in game 4. A leading scorer on this team. Luka and Kyrie both really struggled playing over 40 minutes in the game. I mean, SGA, you mentioned it. It was just elbow jumpers and midi. It seemed like he got to his bag. He was not settling for anything. He felt the hot hand from that mid-range inside the arc. I think he only put up 1 3-pointer that whole game. Yeah. Didn't hit it. He said, let me get to my spot. Let me do what I do, get to that elbow that he loves so much. And I believe it was like the second quarter. It looked like the Mavs were kind of like giving them problems, and SGA just come down midi. And also trusting in his teammates still early in the game. Lou Dort was throwing up bricks, nothing but bricks. He ended up finishing with 17 points. He just let him keep shooting it. I mean, the Mavs were letting him open in the corner the whole game. Few times he stepped inside the arc, pulled a midi, I think, at the end of the second half. but he wasn't settling. He kept shooting the rock, and I mean, that's just good leadership, good trust in teammates to know even when a guy he's not even close to hitting a shot, he's putting up. Still putting him up with confidence. I mean, J-Dub didn't have the best game either. It was really SGA and a little bit of Chet. You mentioned the big-time free throws down the stretch. He had a very solid game, 18 and 9. And then, I mean, the missed free throw by Luka down the stretch. It could have had the tie. You know, I think it was like 16 seconds left or something like that. Missed the big free throw, and it really came down to Luka looked beat, exhausted, tired, fatigued. All those, maybe just an understatement, but it was the SGA show. You're watching the superstars come out. I mean, you got two young fellas in the West between SGA and Ant that are they're exciting young guys to watch. You know, newcomers into the league. Obviously, Luka's still a superstar, still young. But, you know, these guys trying to prove their stamp in this league and let them know that they're here ready to compete with the best in the West. And, I mean, I expect Kyrie and Luka just to get right back on the same page. And if PJ Washington keeps playing like that, the Mavs still have a legit chance, you know, to take that lead back and go 3-2. I think Game 5 is back in OKC. It is. Mm-hmm. Home court advantage for the Thunder. So if the Mavs can steal one, swing that home court back to them, they could end it, you know, on their home court in Dallas. So I really think, you know, the T-Wolves Nuggets and the Mavs Thunder right now, they're kind of living up to the hype. Mavs Thunder, I think, is a little bit, you know, closer of a game down the stretch some of these times. But two very talented teams, two talented matchups in the West. I mean, compared to the East, it's, you know, can someone put a stop on the Celtics? Because right now, they talk about how easy the path is for the Celtics. This is the easiest finals path, you know, you've ever seen, or whatever it is. Right now, it's looking like it, and it might have to be the Pacers with how beat the Knicks are. I mean, even if they advance to the next round, like you said, those guys got a lot of miles. They got a lot of recovering to do, and you know, if they can't get OG back, it's going to be a tough scene for the Knicks after a tremendous season and a tremendous run. Once again, kind of derailed by injuries, but at this point in the year, that's what it is, man. You say it all the time. Best ability is availability. So that's what it's going to come down to. And Halliburton, he got to stay aggressive for the Pacers. I mean, that's a big key for the Pacers, I think, moving forward. But
yeah. At this point in the playoffs, would you take the Celtics over any team in the West?
No. In the West?
Yeah.
Nah.
So you would take all four teams remaining in the West over the Celtics?
Yes. I'm taking all four teams over the Celtics.
I mean, that's not crazy.
I think this, you know, obviously.
Although I will say, with or without Porzingis is a big asterisk next to the Celtics. 100%. So a healthy Porzingis, I think it's a lot more interesting. But the way they are right now, without Porzingis, with Al Horford getting like 30 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Miles. That's the 30-year-old that can't play minutes, really. Missoula is trying to limit his minutes, but he really has no options. Many minutes, bro. Who do you have running out there at the big man?
Luke Cornett.
Yeah, Luke Cornett, man. I mean, that's a name. He put up 19 minutes, and Sam Hauser, he's putting up 15. Al Horford, 28. And I mean, I don't think he played 28 all season leading into the playoffs. So Horford's definitely got his work cut out for him. But I think Porzingis, I think that's a great take. Regardless, I think, you know, the duo between JB and JT played their best game in Game 4 collectively together, and that's kind of what the Celtics are looking for when those two guys get on the same page and can do what they can do at an elite level. But I just look at the West, man, and it's just powerhouse after powerhouse between all four of these teams. Same with the Celtics, but at the end of the day, I'm going to trust in those four teams' superstars. At least, you know, single star over the Celtics single star. But I might take the Celtics over the T-Wolves with the way Cat played Game 3 and 4. If Porzingis is healthy, I think Cat's game worked easily, and it'd be kind of lopsided with that matchup. But
you got Gobert there also for Porzingis. Yeah, that's the thing. You got size for the Timberwolves.
But so I mean, there was a lot of matchups in Game 4 where Cat was, you know, sticking Jokic because of the rollability and Gobert playing that help defense role.
Mm-hmm.
So, they kind of got their game plan, and they want Gobert rather than ranging around with these big men like Porzingis, who really stretches the floor and can get out there. They rather have him, playing that weak side, strong side help when driving to the rack, being able to come over and use his shot blocking ability. That's the game plan they have. He's not really, sticking Jokic every play. But I think it'd be problems. His ability to stretch the floor, and then Al Horford too. When you come off the bench, there's no drop off, and obviously Porzingis is better at this point in his career, but still two big men that have the ability to space out, clear out, and create an open lane for the offense. So
I think that matchup, I think the guard and wing play would just be too much for the Celtics in terms of the Timberwolves, because you have Ant, who's a really good perimeter defender.
Mm-hmm.
He's an athlete. Then Jaden McDaniels, he's locked down. But the Celtics' depth, like if you continue to look at their guards, like Derek White, we've seen he can have games where he goes off and hits 7 threes. Drew Holiday, he has championship mentality. He played really, really good for that Bucks team when they won the championship. He can have a game where he gets hot. They got depth. So in terms of the Timberwolves, I think the Celtics just have too many answers on the perimeter. Whereas you look at the big men, they have size with the Naz Reid. You mentioned Gobert and Cat. Those guys, even if Cat isn't playing as well, like they have at least something for an answer in terms of Porzingis. But once you start going down the matchups in terms of like the guards and wings, like who do you put McDaniels on? Like Tatum? Okay, so then you have Brown. Like if he's going at it with Ant, like you still gonna have Ant working on both sides of the ball. It's like, okay, then who do you match up after that? Like Kyle Anderson on Derek White, like Nikhil Alexander Walker on Drew Holiday. Walker,
like it's tough. That's a matchup.
They have too many. I think they have too many matchups or too many options on the perimeter for the Timberwolves. But I do think you would still probably pick the Timberwolves over them just because.
So you're taking all four. You're taking all four as well in the West.
So far, I think yes.
Okay.
Because we've seen Anthony Edwards hit a level that I don't think we've seen Jason Tatum hit yet. The Nuggets.
Whoa. Okay. I mean, there's been a lot of talk. Jason Tatum, is he a superstar? Is he the Tobias Harris's?
You're literally the biggest.
I am
Jason Tatum hater.
I'm like, right there with you.
What do you mean? Whoa! Like this is like right up your alley.
This is up my alley.
And I think
a lot of people say I got crazy takes and that the Tatum's haters are silenced because he had 27 points in a game where the rest of his team went off. I want to know your take.
I think it's fair to say at this point, Anthony Edwards has hit a level, or we can see him hitting a level. His ceiling at this point,
I'd say it's already
than
higher,
what Jason Tatum can be. Like Anthony Edwards could legit be the best player in the league. I think it's safe to say at this point, Jason Tatum can't be the best player. He can be, top 5, top 10 maybe, but I wouldn't say he has a chance to be the face of the league like Anthony Edwards has. Nuggets, that's pretty much self-explanatory as to why you would pick them over the Celtics. Thunder is interesting. I think they match up well with the Celtics. They're just basically a younger version. You look at Chet and Porzingis, J-Dub, Jaylen Brown, SGA, Tatum. They got a bunch of guys that, kind of have similar career paths and play styles. And so, when they're older, you can kind of see them being their ceiling. So I think that would be an interesting matchup. I mean, I would say it's a coin flip. Boston could easily win that, but I feel like OKC, they were one of the best, 3-point shooting teams this season. I like their defense a little better. But the Celtics could easily win that one. I'll pick the Thunder. And then the Mavericks is kind of the same reason as the Timberwolves, whereas, the Celtics might have more depth. But if you look at Luka and what he's able to do in the playoffs, and then you also look at Kyrie, which is also why the Mavericks could win this series against the Thunder. They just have two guards that have been there in the playoffs. They have the experience that, aren't afraid of the moment and just make big shots. So, I mean, you could have a game where Luka goes off for 45-point triple-double, or you could have a game where, Kyrie has a 40-point game and hits 8 threes and goes insane, has a bunch of assists, and, is just an elite shot maker and stuff like that. So I don't think the Celtics have anyone that volatile on offense besides maybe Tatum at his highest, maybe Jaylen Brown, but I don't think they can get to the levels that Luka and Kyrie can. So in a 7-game series, I definitely could see the Mavericks beating them. But yeah, the Celtics, I know we're ragging on them, but they're a really good team. You know, they're coming out of the East. It'll be a competitive, I think, with any of these series.
You know, I think they got 1B superstars or but I think it's the Celtics' depth. That's where I give them the credit because you mentioned, I mean, they got team. Dogs around the whole team, 1 through 8. I mean, they got guys that can compete at high levels and are, either good to really great players in this league as far as, Derek White in moments, stuff like that. So I do want to ask you something right now, just right now. You mentioned Ant higher than Tatum. So you're taking Ant over Tatum, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you some superstars that are still left in the playoffs. Taking Luka over Tatum.
I would, yeah.
You taking Kyrie?
Over Jason Tatum?
Yeah.
I think it's a little closer now, especially the way Kyrie has been playing and his efficiency. Like, it's a happy Kyrie, but I just think Jason Tatum's size and his defense and especially his rebounding and his ability, I would take the more complete player with Tatum over Kyrie.
Okay. Yeah. Obviously, no, you're going Jokic. Tatum or Jamal Murray?
I also think this is closer than a lot of people think, Jamal Murray, especially in the playoffs. But once again, I just think Tatum offers more all around, so I'm going to take Tatum.
I agree. Tatum or SGA?
This is a tough one. I'm going SGA, man. Like, his scoring ability, the way he can take over, and the way he gets to his spots. And I just think SGA, I think SGA understands his own game better than Jason Tatum at this point. Like you mentioned, SGA, he only shot 1 3 last game. After that, didn't shoot anymore, straight mid-range, get to the free throw line, working inside the paint, setting other people up. Like, we'll see games where, Tatum just shoots abysmal from 3, but he just keeps chucking.
Sidestep.
Yeah, the sidestep, the step back. It just seems like there's times where he can force his game, whereas SGA, it just always seems like he's in control. And SGA is no slouch defensively. He's in the passing lanes. He's super long. He's athletic. He can get it done on the defensive side of the ball as well. So I think SGA adds a little bit more offensively playmaking as well too. So I would go SGA over Tatum.
I'm right there, kind of with you on all those takes. So you got any other topics, discussions, takes?
Nah, that's pretty much it. Besides, I mean, I don't know if you see him, but the Trae Young rumors to the Heat. I mean, they got the number 1 pick. How would you feel about Trae Young to the Heat?
Yeah, obviously you'd have to give up the draft capital. You got Rozier. I think it's about finding.
I think it would be like a Jimmy Butler trade.
Yeah, I would not do that.
So you're gonna pay Jimmy Butler, who's gonna be what? 35, 36. He wants the max. Like, would you give him the super max extension?
I was kind of sitting on the fence. I'm like, I really don't want to be Pat Riley here. Like, you let him walk, you're like, oh, he's the heart and soul of this Heat culture. He embodies every single thing. And then, on the other side, it's like, he's 30 something. You gotta let him walk. Super max is crazy. Like,
not available.
Yeah, like down the stretch, he wasn't there, but he's been there in past years. He's been there in the postseason when they needed him. But someone, I think it was a little Heat page I follow, posted, Jimmy next to, former Miami GOAT and face of the franchise, Dwayne Wade, where Pat Riley, he did the same thing, and he let D Wade walk. Obviously, D Wade had that homecoming back to Miami, and when he left Miami, it was kind of like, he was fully washed. He came back to the Heat. He still had something to offer. He still had buckets to give. It wasn't MVP, scoring title D Wade, but he was out there. He was out there giving buckets. Still a vital player, in their years, I guess. It kind of dwindled years of what they had, but I think I kind of like where they're going. If you can add, I've seen Zach Edey's name get thrown out. Don't want Zach Edey. Bam, if he can continue to be able to stretch the floor, become a threat, with the mid-range to three ball, That would be huge. And I've been seeing, Jared McCain swirling at 15 in terms of guard play. But, no Rozier in the playoffs. That's what you added him for. Kind of like a, great value Trae Young almost. Not being able to, go from the three as well as, Trae Young, but able to get buckets. Kind of what they're looking for at that PG position. But they need to have big man depth. I think that's something they need to look for. Naz Reid's a big name in Minnesota. I don't think he's leaving anytime soon. But that's sort of what they need, man. They need another big man that could, help back up Bam, because outside of Bam, it was Kevin Love, who he can't play the 5 against these teams. You saw it in the playoffs this year where he was just getting exposed defensively, matchup nightmare on the defensive side of things. So I don't like Trae Young, but we'll see. Him and DeJounte were on the podcast. They were talking about how they don't get together, but they're family basically, whatever it was. But
publicity, man.
Numbers don't lie. So that's gonna wrap up Go to Go episode 90, man. Go to Go Pod, TikTok, Go to Go YouTube, Spotify, Apple streaming platforms, all that. And then I believe next week, man, we'll be back, and conference finals will probably be most likely set. So until then, man, peace.